Greetings everyone, Jeremy Sutton here from PrecisionPrinciple.com on day 14 of the 30-day intensive Ashtanga yoga training. Now, yesterday we started the anatomy portion of our course. Now, of course, anatomy, physiology, this physical body plays a very important role when we're talking about yoga, especially when we're talking about the physical poses, when we're talking about psychological well-being, my physical state of energy, and how do I feel, how do I function, right? So an intensive part of this course will be going into the anatomy and physiology, specifically in the context of yoga. What does it mean to yoga? What does it mean for the postures? What does it mean for health and well-being? So there will be some general applications for this for sure, and there will be some other specifically yoga-oriented context for this conversation. So far, we are working with Dr. Amrita, I believe is how you say her name, and she is a medical doctor, and so that's great to have such high-quality teachers through this program. I certainly appreciate that. And yesterday we did just the initial introduction to the anatomy of yoga and what we're going to be talking about. And up to this point, it's not so different from what we would think of as anatomy in any other context, back to high school anatomy in some sense, right? So, first off, we have physiology and anatomy, all right? Let's go the opposite, anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the what, while physiology is the how. That is, anatomy is the what in the sense of what is this body made of? Bones, muscles, organs, brain, skin, eyes, teeth, all this stuff, the what exists in my body, right? Then physiology is the how. It's the processes. What does my body do to digest its food? How does my body contract its muscles? And why can't I lift weights all day? Why do I get tired? These sort of processes of the body. How does this thing work? So, starting from the bottom up, we move through basically the natural progression. Starting at the lowest building block, we have cells, and cells are immensely complicated, but we have millions, maybe trillions of them. I don't know the exact count, but it doesn't really matter. The cell is the basic unit of biology in this sense, and of course we have a cell membrane, we have a nucleus, we have a number of other items in the cell, but we're not going to go too deeply into that, at least not right now. So start with one cell. When we start to get cell division, we start, I think it's mitosis, we get multiple cells gathering together and we get tissues. Right? So when we get a certain amount of tissues together working in one item, we get to an organ. And of course, all of the organs working together for a single function create the organ system. And so naturally, we have a number of organ systems. The specific number of organ systems is 11. We have 11 different organ systems through the body. I would like to verify these facts. I want to go back through another medical textbook and really see if these all match up. But as a medical doctor, I do trust our instructor, so I'm going to go with 11 for now. And I will probably do some further research into anatomy and physiology as we go further. So what are those 11 systems? Real quick, we have the digestive system. That's from the mouth all the way to the anus, the whole tract, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine or the colon, and all the way out. We got the respiratory system. We got our lungs, which is very closely related to the cardiovascular system. Respiratory system brings the air in. Cardiovascular system, including the heart and blood vessels, pump the blood through, bringing that oxygen around the body, taking the carbon dioxide out and other waste products. We have the nervous system, which the nervous system is really the most amazing thing in our body, really, isn't it? I mean, of course, you can't discount any part of the body because they all work together. If you miss the cardiovascular system, you just have a corpse, right? But the nervous system is really isn't that an amazing thing? Because, for a long time we've been trying to figure out how this body works. How do I turn this thought, this thing that's not real, as in I want to wave my hand. How do I turn that thought into the physical motion of waving our hand? The nervous system is where this happens, right? And it's led, of course, by the brain. And the brain is the most precise arrangement of matter in the whole cosmos that we found. There's no more uniquely arranged, more precisely arranged item in the whole cosmos than the brain. We can't, no matter where we look, we haven't found it, right? Because the biology of life arranges us in this particular arrangement, which is a very particular arrangement. If something goes wrong, we can't live. But the brain, who I am, how I think right now, is directly dependent on the specific arrangement of the molecules in my brain. And the same goes for you, for your brain and your molecules. And furthermore, the specific arrangement of those molecules has been based on our experiences. That is, there is no more efficient way to make the specific neural pathways of your brain the way that they are. There's no more simple way to do that than to have a whole universe with an Earth that led to your life, and then in your life have all these situations, and those experiences have forged pathways, have let some pathways die down through neural pruning, and what we're left with, or what we have at least in this exact moment, is the specific arrangement of your brain, of my brain, of all of our brains, and it's so precisely arranged that when it functions correctly, it can contemplate the vastness of interstellar space. As I think there's a doctor from, I forget his name, there's a TED Talk of a very famous neuroscientist, brain doctor, and yeah, he mentions that this little piece of jelly, though it's just matter, can contemplate all the questions of the cosmos, right? So this nervous system, the brain, which leads to all these nerve endings that allow us to turn electrical impulses into physical motion, allow us to turn our ideas into physical reality. So this reminds me, the nervous system kind of reminds me of the fifth branch of yoga, that nexus, that crux, that bridge between the external objective reality and the internal thoughts of reality. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Sorry about that. The nervous system is the next organ system in this anatomy overview. Then we have the endocrine system. That consists of our glands and the hormones, the chemical secretion that drives a lot of the production, tells the processes of our bodies to do what and when to do it. Then we have the integumentary system. What's the integumentary system, I hear you asking? That is the part of us that grows our hair, our nails, our skin, the kind of the oils. So this is all part of the integumentary system. We got the skeletal system. I think that one is well known to all of us. We got the bones. We have the muscular system, self-explanatory, all of our muscles. We have our lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is basically our immune system, and it's run by the lymph. So parallel to our cardiovascular system, we have a whole system of the lymphatic system, which uses its own chemicals to move things around. The lymph is the medium of these vessels, and it helps the T cells, the white blood cells, and all these things to fight off infectious diseases and keeps us healthy. And this includes the spleen, our spleen, our tonsils, and other items. We'll go more deeply, I think, into these later. For now, we're just going to do the overview. The excretory system, which of course is that helps get us the not us out of us, right? And the reproductive system, which of course that's our sexual organs that help us involved in creating new life, or allowing the continuation of life, right? So in the context of yoga, yoga is intended to help all of these systems work in harmony well. And it's important to note that, through the nervous system, through the brain, that there is a strong connection between our well-being, our stress, our states of equilibrium, and our physical health. That is, when we are in a state of stress all the time, we are not going to be healthy, happy people. I mean, that's easy enough said. Hopefully that resonates with all of our experiences. Usually the times when we are happiest is when we are not in extreme duress. But There's also, by the way, there's at least two types of stress, and this is mentioned in a number of different texts, including Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. Whether or not people agree with all the ideas in that book, one good idea that's definitely helpful to think about is the difference between distress and eustress. By the way, for those people who, some people love Tim Ferriss, some people are kind of ambivalent towards him, or maybe even actively dislike his demeanor. That's not the point. If you don't care for Tim Ferriss's opinion, then also there's another great book called Unbeatable Mind, and I forget the name. I think Mark Devine is the name of the author. And he also mentions this difference between distress and eustress. And Mark Devine, by the way, he is an incredible person, creator of SEAL Fit. He was a Navy SEAL. He's an entrepreneur, businessman, helping people in a number of different ways, both physically and psychologically, helping them develop programs. He's developed the Unbeatable Mind program. If you're interested, take a look. But in the meantime, the point is that there's distress, that's the bad stress, the harmful stress for us, but there's also eustress, right? That's kind of that pressure that helps us, it's what helps us get up in the morning sometimes. I have a project I want to do, and man, I feel good about it, but there's a deadline. I have to make sure I get that done. So this eustress can be a good way to sort of motivate us forward. And when it comes to yoga, we're talking about doing practices that sort of get all of these systems in line. Because if you'll recall back to the talk about the 9 obstacles of the yoga practice given by Patanjali, the very first obstacle to the practice is physical illness and physical injury and illness, right? So the point is this: if you are injured, if you are sick, it's hard to kind of consider something such as enlightenment or self-realization, self-actualization. Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs has your physiological needs right on the base of that pyramid. That is, if you are completely thriving on all levels, let's just say I'm a professional basketball player, no, let's say I'm a professional artist, a creative genius, I'm a Mozart of sorts, and I am firing on all levels. Everything in my life is just going completely well. My career is excellent. I'm just producing creative work at the epitome of what I can. And then I have a terrible disease. I get a terrible case of giardia and tapeworms at the same time, and my whole intestinal tract just completely deteriorates. Well, guess what? Pull out that bottom layer of the hierarchy and the whole pyramid starts to crash, right? I'm not going to be able to think about my social group, my integration into my community, my well-being, my contribution to others, my creativity, my self-esteem. These are not important to me anymore. All I care about is the physical well-being of getting over my sickness. So same thing in yoga. You pull out that bottom physiological step, and guess what? I'm having a big trouble working on my practice. I personally had an experience just this week. About a week ago, I had a very slight pull in my hamstring during just doing stretching a little bit too hard. Of course, we're all going pretty hard out here, and lo and behold, I kind of hurt myself. And for the next 4 hours, I was just kind of ruminating, like, man, what was I doing? How so stupid of me to push myself that hard. What are you doing? There's no benefit for going this far. And then, ruminating about my injury and about how it's going to impede my progress, I started to not pay attention to the class that I was in at the moment, right? So thinking about the injury, I was impeding my presence right here in this moment. So when we are looking at this physiology and anatomy and just basically overall brain health, physical health, mind and body health, this is an essential step to build this firm foundation so that I can reach if I'm going to have mind, body, spirit, or for people who are not so into spirit, maybe you say being or existence, right? Mind, body, and the fact that you exist, these core questions of these existential questions, these basic philosophical questions, these are not possible to ponder unless we get the mind and the body in order. So here with the physiology and anatomy, we're trying to get an understanding of how this body works so that we can complete these yoga practices to train our bodies, to train our focus so that we can perform to our peak abilities, and ultimately so that we can, Patanjali would argue that we get into a state of meditation. All these practices are for meditation so that we can prepare the body to be in a state where the mind can contemplate what happens, what my enlightenment or my self-realization or my existence or whatever contemplative questions are important to me in my life or you in your life. And ultimately, this is the foundation. If we don't have this, we can't get to the next part. So that's what we've been working on the last 24 hours. Of course, we're still practicing, doing our special classes with hip opening and arm balances. It's been quite an adventure to try to get some of these more complicated maneuvers, kind of just the cornerstones of these so that we can practice them in our own way. But this information of the anatomy and physiology is very helpful to just kind of open up the awareness to what is actually happening inside this body right here. And so that is all we have today. If you're interested in more information on these topics, check out precisionprinciple.com, or of course subscribe to these videos so you won't miss the next update and the future updates as we get to Japan in the not so distant future. But in the meantime, keep learning, keep growing, and have a great day.